Version control. This is week 9, right? Yeah. Wow. Wow. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right now, not yet.
We're at 9 now. Okay. 9. So, version control for Unreal is cool in that it's built in to the system. Again, Unreal is known as a AAA gaming engine. It's something built for large teams to use. And I've used it for like teams of like 30 before, and it could be teams of 200, but it requires a little bit of planning ahead. So usually when I teach version control, maybe only one group will try it, and the other groups will do like Google Docs, and it's a nightmare. Don't use Google Docs. It's a nightmare. You will lose your project somehow. Dropbox, nightmare. If you're going to be doing this kind of stuff, I'd rather you guys have like flash drives and merge your things when you meet up than doing it online storage. Unless you're zipping up, you could zip up things and put it into Google Docs and Dropbox, but do not sync an entire project to a Dropbox folder. It creates all these conflicted copies, and just don't do it. I'm going to show you the proper way of doing it, the free proper way of doing it, and then I'll show you how to do. Everyone has like their own level, so that you can merge levels in the end, and it's all happy. Okay, so hopefully Unreal will eventually open up. Yes. All right. So we're going to do a new blueprint project. We'll do no starter content, and we'll just call this one version control for today. Version controls, I was going to call it, which is also cool. All right. Got these big fingers and tiny keys, you know. All right. So let me pull up the documentation. We'll make a week 9 channel real quick, and it's going to be for version control and then project updates. All right. And much like I gave you guys a link to the Unreal Style Guide, we also have different kind of version control we can use. The 3 main ones are Perforce, which is industry standard and expensive. GitHub, which has file size limitations, and Subversion, which is older than I am. But I don't think it is actually. Almost, it's like my little brother. And but Subversion, otherwise known as SVN, is oftentimes free. And it might be a little slower, but free is good. We're spending so much money on so much other stuff. Yes, Chief, you're where? Okay. Yep, presentation is loaded, and you're being recorded onto my screen recording right now. Cool. All right. You'll have a special message right there. I put the microphone. Okay, bye. So anyway, using SVN as source control, if you want to have GitHub, there's also a link to GitHub, and there's also one for Perforce. And here it goes into week 9. Great. So as we've seen, there are a bunch of folders we don't want to sync, these saved intermediate folders, things that have a lot of bulk and junk and all that kind of stuff. You make a decision with your team how you want to sync the imports. Maybe you don't want to share imports at all because somebody's doing sound and somebody's doing 3D assets, and you don't need to share that kind of dead space on your computer because we don't want to waste the space. The main thing is you do need to do your U project file and your content folder, okay? And then if you're adding in plugins, you would have a sync your plugin folder as well. I have hosting with a company called DreamHost, and DreamHost has unlimited SVN storage. You can definitely find a lot of free storage out there. If it is limited, you could probably keep your project size down if you work in a separate project and migrate in only the things that are essential. So this is like kind of file management thing, getting used to like not bloating up the main project and having your own sandbox and then migrating in just the assets that are important. That might take a little more planning to do. But in general, here's the guide. And the main thing I do on this page is I look at this right here to remind myself. Green means go. Those are the ones maybe you want to sync. Right? Source is a folder you only have if you're using C++. And then the binary is not really that important because we're not making builds. So those green ones are the ones you need to sync. Okay? My DreamHost SVN right here is a bunch of projects. Every project I've ever worked on is stored on my website, which is why I can't update my website because it knocks down my SVN. So that's why my website's 3 years old, and I'm lazy. So I've created a new. I have right here. I could create a new repository, which is just given a name and giving it a URL, and here it is. So it's stored up there in the cloud, and I can add in users here. And like I said, I have unlimited. If you want me to host it, that's not a problem. Just tell me. Tell me what you want the usernames and passwords to be, and I'll send you a link, and you can have my storage. That's not. I don't care. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to take my link, and first of all, on Windows, there's a program called Tortoise SVN. Maybe they're making fun of the fact that SVN is slow. Tortoise SVN. It's free. Use 64-bit, etc., etc. And then on Mac, there's one called Snail SVN, also referencing maybe the fact that this is a little slow. So there we go. The Mac Snail SVN, you can only do one project at a time, actively linked. So just know those limitations for freeness. But Tortoise SVN is like an old pal to a lot of people. Cool. And what I'm going to do is I am going to go to my folder where I've made this project, which is my Unreal projects. And Unreal projects, and it's down here. I called it version control, right? Well, I need to push it into version control. I'm going to make a working copy. Okay, it's an empty folder, and it's called new folder. Worlds on a wire, final, whatever. But whatever I do, I always put WC at the end, letting me know that this is the one that's in version control. Okay, and then I need to establish that the SVN database is here. And with Tortoise SVN is context sensitive, meaning when I right click, it gives me Tortoise SVN functions. If I get my URL from my dream host, right here, just copy, I can then, you see here's the little Tortoise section. I want to check out this empty database. It says, what's my URL? It actually grabbed it from my clipboard. I don't have to paste anything. I already copied it beforehand. I say OK. And then once my username and password, and I made it Todd, and my password was VR123. You're welcome to steal this. It's empty. Cool. And it's at revision 0. I haven't done anything with it yet, but I have the ability to see my hidden folders, and you see that it has this .svn. It starts doing database files. Okay, you can also do this locally. You don't have to do this on the cloud. If you just want to have a version control on your local computer, even if it's storage space, you can do this and have it referencing a database that's in another folder, and that way you can like recover files if something gets broken locally. I've actually nested local repositories inside of cloud repositories that then had a Dropbox for my imports and all that kind of stuff. So there we go. Let's take over the project then. So it's called version control, and I'm going to move it into the final folder. Cool. Let me just cut it into the final folder. It has to be closed first. There we go. Cut. Paste. Great. And then I want to right click on it. There he is. Come on in. I'm showing him SVN. And then we'll get going. We got plenty of time. Oh, that's okay. I told him the wrong number just to mess you up. So right there. So I'm adding the project in. I told him that Perforce was too expensive for our blood. I don't want to deal with any droplets and digital oceans.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing. So I've just added it, right? It's been added. It's been marked for adding, but it's not in the repository first yet. I have to push it, okay? But it's been marked for adding. But I remember that there was a couple folders I didn't want, and those were the saved and the intermediate. I right-click, and I'm going to say unversion, ignore these ones. Don't version control them. Don't save them. I don't want to waste my storage space. I don't waste my time uploading it. And so now they've been added to the ignore list. Now if I upload this whole folder, it only looks at the folders I haven't ignored. Right? This is all written out in that page I gave you a link for. It just seems to be a little complicated to read. I had to read it like 5 times every time I read it. This is this is how you do it. Now if you're going to have like version control problems where like you guys have conflicting files, we'll deal with that like as a needed basis. Don't mess up. It's probably the easiest advice. No. So now my project is marked for adding and ignoring. I go back to the root and I say commit it. And then this is my initial commit. Right? Be as verbose as you want to, and this will be saved with every single one of these files. You can upload just individual files, individual folders, or your entire project every time you do it. Okay? So it's now been uploaded, and it's in cloud storage. And I open it up, and there's one more level of, so this is a way of doing it kind of asynchronously. Just when I get done working, I upload some stuff, and the first thing I do every time I want to start working, I pull. Always make sure you have the freshest copy possible, so that you're not like working with something that somebody was doing yesterday, and then yada yada yada. Okay. But again, as I was saying, Unreal is built for version control, and it's built into the engine. Up here, you might have seen this button right here, source control. If I say connect to source control, I could choose from my three options, Subversion, and I say my repository URL, which was, I have to copy it again. Since when do you can only copy and paste once? I thought it would be like unlimited clipboard. So repository here, username was Todd, and the password was VR123. And now I accept my settings, and it's live, and you see it's green right here. And what's cool about this is when I create new things, material test, it will let you know if it's been added or not. So right now it's marked for adding, right? There's a little plus in the top right, but it hasn't been committed. At the end of my day, I submit to source control. And then it's uploaded. I think I have to give it a message. It won't let me do not have a message. So message. All right. And then in the same way, if I'm like, hey guys, I'm working with this model, I'm working with this level, I'm working with whatever, if you just open up something, it checks it out, so it's locked and they can't use it in real time. This slows down the engine slightly, right? Because it's pinging the internet up and down. But what I have is now over here I have a context sensitive menu for source control. I check that out, and no one can mess with this file. And then it pings me if somebody's trying to look at it. So it's really a nice communication system that also works with having like GChat open or WhatsApp or something, so that you guys say, hey, alert, I'm going to do this. Is that okay? Whatever. It's once you get in the groove of this, I wouldn't ever work another way. I would try to do it live, especially if you have like 3 people, 2 people if you're side by side. It's not a big deal. All right. So that just gets started with version control. Let me know if you guys want it. We'll make a username and password for each person in your group. That way, it will tag each file with who last edited it, so we can find who has things checked out and all that kind of stuff. Okay. From there, we could do some more things next week, but I don't want to waste any more time now that Winslow's here. So that's the end of the short video for today. You're welcome, Marshall.